Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the What's for Dinner show. My name is Rachel Mattheos. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, and I'm with Jess. She's a PA student and working along with Dr. Gilbert. So Dr. Gilbert is busy doing technical issues. And so we're going to
Yes.
give her a little pass. Yeah. How are you doing today, Jess?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. We always talk about the weather first thing for some reason, and I'm looking at a lot of fog, but yesterday the fog
Mhm.
turned into a gorgeous day. So is that what you're seeing
Yes.
also?
Yes, I drive from Newburgh to Salem every day, and it was a little bit scary on the roads this morning. It was kind of hard to see, and I learned that your brights don't really help in the fog. You just
No.
got to go a little bit slower.
Yeah, good lesson to learn there. Yeah, this
Yes.
time of year the fog can be really soupy in the Willamette Valley.
Hmm.
So, but I'm looking forward to the sun. I hope it pops out.
Me too.
Um, all right. Well, I'm glad we're still together and we still get to do our show today, the episode. So, as you guys know, we've been following along in the book Eat, Move, Sleep by Tom Rath. And it's really just that simple. Every single chapter, he talks a little bit about eating, a little bit about moving, and a little bit about sleep. And really just trying to highlight all the little nuances. We know that eating and moving and sleeping are good for us,
Hmm.
but it's helpful to read these little nuances that can kind of
Yeah.
be inspiring. Have you
Yeah.
noticed that?
Yes. Yeah. Things I don't even think about. It brings like details to my attention. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Didn't
Exactly.
know that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So these new little details can also up our motivation, increase our inspiration to make change when we have just more value. Like,
Mm.
oh, it does this and this and this.
Yes.
These little things.
Mhm.
So I strongly recommend getting this book. It's like a quick, each chapter is like 3 pages, or 4 pages. So
Super
it's
quick.
an easy reading. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, chapter 25 is what we're on. And the first part he's going to talk about in this chapter is eating to beat cancer. So he talks about the research, of cancer and of the different types of cancers. Normally, cancer, we all are walking around with cancer in our bodies every day. Cells mutate, they become cancerous or problematic and defective. Our bodies have ways to kill those cells and to try to fight that cancer off. And he's specifically talking about diet and exercise having been shown to reduce recurrences of cancer and to extend survival. So it's one more, added benefit of exercise. But what did you take just particularly away from this chapter? What kind of stuck out for you?
Yeah, I think when I was reading this chapter, it made me think of somebody Dr. Gilbert and I just recently talked to. He
Mm.
works in oncology, so he works with cancer patients. And he was telling us that people going through chemotherapy, they have to limit their antioxidant intake because it affects with the cells that they're trying to kill off for the cancer. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like shows me how powerful antioxidants are in the role of preventing things like cancer and just helping our bodies be healthier. So that made me think. This chapter made me think of that.
That's really interesting. Kind of putting together, why would a doctor say that? Why would they stop you from taking antioxidants and eating those foods?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. He talks about the way to prevent growth of cancerous cells. So, of course, we don't ever have a one, perfect diet that will prevent cancer. We can't guarantee that, but we do know that it decreases the odds. So he, of course, he talks about some specific foods like apples, artichokes, blueberries, broccoli, green tea, kale, mushrooms, tomatoes, salmon, red grapes, and then even spices like cinnamon, turmeric, nutmeg, parsley. These are, spices. We forget about those, but they do have a lot of power. They do have a lot
Yeah.
of antioxidant power.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I remember. I'm jumping in here.
Hi.
Hey, I got my thing fixed, so yay. But yeah, once upon a time, I would say, 10, 15 years ago, when people talked to me about herbs and spices, I thought, oh, yummy on a pizza, right? Yummy on a pizza. But my mind has blown now that I've kind of
Mhm.
changed. I've had a little paradigm shift and I'm dug deeper into nutrition. Oh my goodness, the powerful effects and benefits of herbs and spices.
Right.
Yeah, and they make food taste delicious, and we get the variety of different flavors, so we can never get bored.
Right.
With eating good, healthy food, that decreases our cancer risk. It's awesome. Yeah.
It really is. It really is an easy way too, because most spices are interesting. People like them. They add flavor, but we have to just learn about how to use them and seek out ways to get new spices every day. Don't just stick with salt and pepper and maybe a little bit of cumin. Expand, right? You got to expand your palate with spices.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Second part of the chapter, he talks about getting a prescription for exercise. I actually love this. I think doctors and providers need notepads that are literally like, here's your food prescription and here's your exercise prescription.
Okay.
And so he talks about it being a wonder drug, not being bottled. And I have a friend who's a nurse practitioner, a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. And she talks about, we often talk about the benefits of exercise for mental health and well-being. And she says, the drugs that I can prescribe, the medications that people are taking for depression, anxiety, bipolar, panic, all of these different mental health medications, they only go so far. They're only going to improve your well-being. It's actually quite a small percent. And so if patients want more, they've got it. The exercise is a free way. And in fact, they can probably get better results from exercise than from many of the medications out there. So that kind of blows my mind with the power of exercise. What have you noticed with exercise for you?
Yeah, I learned about some of that stuff in my undergrad. I took a class called Psychosocial Aspects of Physical Activity, and it was saying for anxiety and depression, how effective exercise is in decreasing anxiety and depression. So what you were saying reminded me of that. Like, there is good research to back that up. Exercise. Yeah, and just personal experience, I feel so much better after exercise, whether it's a 20-minute run or an hour workout in the gym. Either of them makes me feel so much better, stress-wise, emotion-wise, all around.
Yeah. It's not just like we hear people say that, well, I know I feel better when I exercise, but stop and think about what you're saying. If you feel better, that's because there's been a physiologic change, a chemical change. And that is what we're talking. And like you said, Jess, there's really good science behind this. This isn't just anecdotal. People kind of feel better when they exercise, so maybe they should exercise. No, there's actually, they're saying that exercise can be as good as and as effective as medication and possibly more effective. So he's suggesting grab exercise before you grab a pill, or at least in addition to getting your exercise. And here's what I think is so fascinating. He said, regular activity modifies your genes, our exercise modifies our genes. Okay. In a way that benefits your diet. The scientists had found that after a half an hour of exercise, the activity altered the DNA that produces specialized muscle proteins that boost metabolism. So this caused muscles to burn more fats and more sugars and can reduce the need for a variety of medications that would otherwise be helping people trying to compensate for a poor diet, eating certain things. That kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that, most people know that exercise is good for them. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that. But what do you think, Rachel, are the biggest barriers for people to get off their couch and, to move? What have you encountered as some of the biggest barriers?
Well, I think I hear time quite a bit, but what you just inferred there is if someone's laying on the couch, then they have time. Right?
Yeah. And sometimes it's energy, right?
Right.
Yeah, they have time, but they have no energy. So,
and energy is created. We don't have it. We find it. We generate it. Yeah. And so it's a misunderstanding of energy. What I would like to call it more is low willpower. At the end of the day, we tend to have less willpower. We have less discipline because we've spent it in other areas of our day. So it can be hard to make good choices at 6 o'clock at night. When you've you're out of good choices, you sort of already spent them all. You were well behaved at work. You didn't yell at your spouse, hugged your children. All of this takes discipline and good choices. And kind of run out of that. So a way that I work with people in coaching is, number one, can we put exercise in a place where it's easier to do?
Earlier in your day, maybe.
During the day, where it's a little bit less big and it feels like it's going to take energy.
Mhm.
And the second thing is you have to just start.
Mhm.
If you want the energy, you gotta just spend that little bit of energy and put it
Mhm.
on. And we can talk about lots of different habits to break it down, to make it tiny.
Yeah.
And simple. Even if it's 2 minutes, walk to your mailbox.
Right.
I mean, we got to start somewhere.
Right. I love that. I love that. Because, here we have an exercise prescription that
Mhm.
we figure out. And a lot of people think exercise is going to the gym, or
Right.
exercise is running on a track, or exercise is doing something on some equipment, but that's not necessarily so. And so maybe it's gardening for you, maybe it's pushing your lawnmower, right? And instead of riding on your tractor lawnmower, maybe it's, taking your dog for a walk, so it's really kind of considering what you enjoy doing, how you enjoy moving your body, and then also getting beyond that all or none thinking of, I have to, if I don't do something for an hour, it doesn't count.
Right.
So, yeah, we've talked about those kinds of things before. So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of brain work that goes into getting our body moving, moving our brain to a place of doing that, taking that next step. Yeah.
I oftentimes even, work with people to not stop moving at the end of the day until they've exercised, until they've gone the walk with the dog or did some gardening. The minute we, remember Newton's main law, object in motion stays in motion, and object in rest stays at rest. And at work, you have energy because you haven't stopped. You're going, and you don't have the luxury of stopping. You have to get through your day. But the minute you come home, if you stop and plop on the couch, odds are stacked against you'll ever move again.
That's
So
so true.
don't get on the couch yet.
Yeah, awesome. That's a great point. Maybe stop at the gym on your way home from work.
Yes.
Because it ain't going to happen if you go home first.
No, it gets harder and harder to do. And we're all that way. Like, give yourself a break. If you're one of these people saying, yeah, I can't get myself off the couch. Right. If I jumped on the couch at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I'd have a hard time getting up too. We're all like that. The minute we start to slow down, our body kind of goes in that rest mode, and it gets harder and harder to pull yourself off the couch. Don't get on the couch to begin with.
Awesome.
All right. Final topic for today. He says, no two numbers by heart. So he's talking about heart disease, still the leading cause of death, kills millions of people worldwide every year. And it's one of the most preventable ailments ever studied. And so he's talking about the risks associated with heart attacks. So they try to identify what are the things that identify people for being more at a higher risk of heart disease. And high cholesterol, high blood pressure, not doing physical activity, smoking, poor diet, all have a profound impact. But he would suggest that the two number one numbers you should know about yourself to be on top of it and to make sure you're helping be proactive in preventing heart disease is your cholesterol and your blood pressure. What do you guys think about that?
Jess, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's important, especially if you are working on healthier lifestyle, to have a baseline, maybe get labs and see how they improve over time. That can be encouraging to see the changes, because there are changes with exercise and eating healthier. It does decrease your risk of heart disease, and tracking that can be helpful.
Yeah. And we've talked a lot this month about how the ratios, and I like that he pointed out ratios versus just the total cholesterol number. He talked about the ratios and how important those were. And we've shown that too. Yeah. And people get excited to have one more thing to track or measure, a data point apart from a number on a scale that shows their health is improving.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those, and I love what he said was 90, he used that number 90%. 90% of this heart disease risk I'm in control of. How empowering is that?
Yes.
How empowering is that?
Yeah, that is really empowering. And we have to remember that day by day, the choices we make, we have the power. It doesn't matter necessarily. Don't worry about your genes. Let them take care of themselves. You worry about what you can take care of. And 90%, that's quite a bit of control. You're in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
All right. Well, that's the stuff today. That's the chapter.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for dinner. Yeah. So what's for dinner for you?
All right, for dinner for me, and this brings up a good point about the spices that we just talked about earlier. I made my 15 bean soup, which I make all the time, but I was bored of making it the same way, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna just kind of shoot from the hips and I was kind of making it like a bean stew / soup / I don't know what, and I just started going for it, and I looked up Indian spices, and I just started tossing in a bunch of Indian spices, and it is so good. It's the same soup I would normally make. I put some slightly different veggies in. It's really kind of a kitchen sink kind of a soup. Like there's bok choy and there's some potato and some farro and some onion and carrots and also some bell pepper and also like I kind of went for it. And I was like, you know what? It's going to be fine. Put enough spices in there. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be, it's not going to taste bad. And it is so, so good, but it has a totally different flair with turmeric and black mustard seed and black cumin and black garlic. And so some of these spices that I don't use very frequently, but I'm trying to get it more in my rotation. So that's dinner tonight.
That sounds delicious.
Yummy.
That sounds delicious. We kind of did that earlier this week for lunch. I just like, okay, I need a stew. And so, yeah, threw a bunch of vegetables in there. I also did some grass-fed finished beef. But where last week that was more an Italian flavor with oregano and rosemary and basil. This week it was cumin and cinnamon and cloves. And what else did I put in there? Well, there was cayenne and then red pepper. And it was totally different, but totally delicious.
Yeah.
And so that was super fun. But tonight we're having Jess for dinner, and we've also invited some other administrative people from her program that I happen to know. And so he used to be my former boss and his wife. So my husband's gonna bake some chicken. My husband's cooking, but and he's found a new way, a healthier way of baking chicken. He uses almond flour, which is a step up, and then our chicken is pastured, and then we're going to do green beans, and we're going to do sweet potatoes, and I think they're bringing a salad, and we have this delicious, yummy, yummy, yummy dessert. Because when you have people over, usually have dessert, and we have apples from our own tree, Rachel, that we just kind of like bake or brown in a pan. And they get even sweeter when you heat them, and a little bit of cinnamon. And you don't need any sugar. We might use a little bit of whipped cream. So, but we'll see. So I'm looking forward to that one.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite desserts, is just to take an apple. If I'm kind of craving something sweet, sprinkle cinnamon on it, and just I cut it in half and I just eat it like that with the cinnamon on it. And you're right. A little bit of cinnamon on an apple feels very decadent, very sweet. It changes the flavor profile of the apple and is dessert. So it's nice.
It's dessert.
Yeah.
So we're going to say goodbye because we got to go pick some apples for tonight's dinner.
Hey.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.